In this video, we're going to discuss exceptions. An exception is an error that occurs while a program is running, causing the program to abruptly halt or crash. In Python, you can use the try except statement to gracefully handle these exceptions. We call the try except statement an error exception handler. And so we use the reserved word try, colon, and whatever statements we are using to test the exception. We use the keyword except, and then there are key identifiers. They're reserved words called the exception name, or we can use the reserved word exception as error. And the word error is just an arbitrary variable or a label that I'm using, because what's going to happen is it will tell you what that exception is by when you say print error, and it will display the specific error that has been caused as a result of your statements. For example, if I execute a program that asks users to enter real or float input values, and I accidentally enter alphabets and special characters with my numbers, the Python program crashes or abruptly halts. For instance, in the program where I am calculating the total purchases amount, I'm going to run this program and I'm going to put in this amount of money, but I accidentally put an A and a dollar sign. This is what happens. Value error, could not convert a string to, and what you see here. So it abruptly halted. That's an error. When you're writing code or you're creating an application of some sort, the one thing you do not want to happen is for your program to crash. If someone puts the wrong information in there, you need to indicate you entered the wrong information. Please go back and enter the correct value and give them some directions on what to enter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an exception right here. I have to put an exception at lines 69, 71, 74, 75, 77, and 79. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of course, we don't want to repeat that. That's why the function would be good. So let me put an exception here. I'm going to say add statements to check the data type entry. In other words, the user is going to enter something, and I'm going to have the Python program try except statement to be used as a error handler. So I'm going to say while true, let's try entering this price. And so I'm going to use the try. Let's do try. And then we're going to try, that's our statement that we're going to use to try entering it. What's going to happen though is when I enter that and it puts the wrong information in there, it will crash unless I add this exception. I'll say accept, and I'm going to use the value error. It's going to turn purple. That's an indication that that's an exception name as described in the Python program, and we'll show you all those a little bit later. But we'll say accept error, and I'm going to say print wrong data type, re-enter a positive numerical value. I need to let the user know what to do, and so that it will know to do that. And see, this while true is going to be a loop that allows the programmer to go back up and keep entering the correct value. So I'm going to say continue. Continue that's a conditional statement, a control statement, and it says okay, go back up and try enter again. That's what causes it to loop back up. Else break. So now if I run the program, and I enter 1000, I put a Z there by mistake, it's going to say you put the wrong data type, re-enter a positive number. So I'll put in 10,000, whatever. And now it lets me go on to the next one. Now, because I don't have that exception there, I'm going to get the same error again. If I put the wrong information in here, put in a dollar sign, and then it crashes again. So what does that tell you? It tells you that this statement here, I'd have to place it between just before, and you'll notice just before the price statement. I'm going to have to enter that once more. Before we go on though, let me, instead of saying break, I'm going to say else if price 1 is equivalent to, if it's less than or equal to 0. I'm going to still say print, but this time I'm going to say you enter you enter the negative value. So let me just copy this information here and just change it. So I'll place it here and then move it over. I'll indent. The best thing to do is it's not indenting properly, so I'll move this over and say format, indent. Continue. And in this case, I'm not going to say the wrong data type was entered because it was an negative value. Negative value entered. Re-enter a positive numerical value. Continue. Else break. That breaks the program out of that loop. Otherwise, you'd end up with an infinite loop. So if I run the program once more, and I put in something with a dollar sign that says, oh, wrong data type. So I put this in. Well, I'll put in a negative value now. It says negative value entered. And this is going to let me now enter the right item. And then I can move on and put whatever else I want. Some number. And then I'll tell the computer to write the results. I'll just say test output file. And as soon as you get that prompt, that little prompt lets you know that we put in the right data. So now let's look at the output. Here's the output. And there's that data that was entered. And everything worked out great. So what we're doing now is this is called an exception error. Now, rather than me taking these statements, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I would have to do this 13 times 6, because for every statement here, I'm going to have to do the same thing. So rather than me repeating all this, that is one of the main reasons why functions are important, because they allow the programmer to create a task and reuse that task to minimize or to mitigate redundancy. So I'm going to take this, right click, copy it, and I will create another function. And I'm going to say function to create an exception error to check data type when user enters data. All right, so what I'll do here then is I will say def check. I'm going to be very specific. Float data type, open close parentheses. I am creating a function that returns a single value through the function heading. I don't necessarily need anything because it's going to be brought in through the name of the function, the value that I'm going to bring in. So next, I'll go ahead on and paste all this information. And what's going to be next is I'm going to go back to column 4 now. How do I know I'm at column 4? Because at the very, I'm going to bring this up a little bit so you can see this a little bit. At the very top, bottom rather, of the screen, you'll see line 63. That's where I'm at, line 63, but I'm at column 4. I mean line 63 rather, and column 4, I'm going to say return, and then whatever I'm going to return. Now, I'm going to return a value, but instead of me saying price 1 and price 2 and price 3, I'm going to use a generic reference, float data type. I'm going to be using this particular function for many programs, for several programs throughout this class. So I'm going to say return the data type float data type, and check float data type function. So if I did not create this function, then below I would have to write enter the price of purchase number 1 and then say while true for the first purchase or the first price. The second price, I would have to have these same statements. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. That's a lot of redundancy. Stay tuned for the next video and it will cover the remaining discussion concerning exceptions as it relates to entering float data types.